Let's do a little bit of Pinehurst in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Tricks, you know what I'm talking about? That lettuce, that lettuce. Gotta get it. Gotta get it. That lettuce, that lettuce, focused all on the check. Yeah, all I want is lettuce. Yeah, just give me the lettuce. Yeah, just give me the lettuce.
Let us heads, we are back with a special edition of Please Let Us Golf, the podcast. You got Goldie, you got Adam on this one. So why is it special, you ask? Well, this is our full formal debrief from a recent winter golf trip we just got back from the Pinehurst Resort. I'm a second timer. Adam's a first timer, so you're going to get that little bit of varying perspective. And we're going to give you everything you need to know, right? We're going to deep dive, of course, into the golf. We're going to get there in a second. But we're getting a lot of questions from the lettuce heads about the planning, the pro tips, the costs, resort offerings. So we're gonna front load a little bit of that information to give some context, and then we're gonna go through the golf we played. And of course, just a teaser, we played 2, 4, and 10. So if you're not initiated, if you're not a true sicko, everyone knows Pinehurst number 2, right? So you're talking Payne Stewart, the moment of moments. You got the Bryson sand shot from last year. Everybody wants to go play number 2, so we're obviously going to deep dive into that. But then you got number 4, kind of known as the little sister to number 2, has its own special place in golf. It's a top 50 public golf course in the U.S. as well. And then number 10. If you don't know, Pinehurst number 10 opened last year, first new course in a while out at the Pinehurst Resort, debuted as the number 1 new golf course in America. So obviously going to give you everything you need to know about that. And then we did some other stuff, the Cradle, the putting course. So we're going to hit all that. But Adam, before we get going, anything you need to say? And then most importantly, did we solve the shorts dilemma? And how is the eye?
Man, I'm excited to be here. We're talking Pinehurst. We're going to deep dive it. I get to nerd out a little bit. There's no Jewel, there's no Mr. Golfberg. All those guys want to do is talk about their swings anyways. We're gonna talk about Mr. Ross. We're gonna talk about the golf course. But to answer your question, yes, we did solve the shorts dilemma. I think we nailed it. The first 2 days, clearly pants weather. That last day, though, man, we had that bluebird day, getting up to 70 degrees. We broke out the shorts, baby.
Yeah. So for context, when we were doing the little bit of teaser that we are going on the trip, that was the whole dilemma. We were right in that 60 range, and that's 60 on the shorts dilemma. Is it shorts? Is it pants? And then you got to weigh what time you start, when you finish, and what's the wind doing. But we think we nailed it. It was basically pants day 1 and 2 with comfy tops, and then day 3 we had all shorts, all polos, nailed it. And then the eyeball had a little incident at Pinehurst number 2 on the back nine. How are we doing?
We're doing a lot better. That ride home, I thought I was gonna have to go to the eye doctor. Wasn't doing too well, man. I think it was the 15th hole. Just caught a lot of sand. The wind was up.
It was 14. I got the shot on video.
Yeah,
It was 14.
I've never had sand in my eye that bad. It was bad.
We were flushing the eyeball out. We were concerned. And number 2 is a very hard golf course, so it's probably the worst place you want to be down an eyeball. So anything else for you launch us into the Pinehurst Resort?
No. So yeah, I just want to give a quick little, resort history. You can't really know where you're going until you know where you've been. So
Spoken like the true historian.
That's right. As the true historian. So kind of starting things off, in 1895, Boston philanthropist James Walker Tufts purchased the 5,800-acre lot that Pinehurst now sits on. And kind of interesting, he intended for it to be a health retreat, specifically to treat tuberculosis. And that didn't last very long, because a few years later, he brought in none other than Mr. Donald Ross to build some golf courses for him.
I never heard of this fellow. Donald Ross, you say?
Apparently, he's a big deal. I think he's built quite a few golf courses here in the U.S. But as far as at Pinehurst, he built the first 4 golf courses. So he started with number 1, which was a redesign. in 1901, and then number 2 was in 1907, number 3 in 1910, and number 4 in 1919. And then after that, we've got kind of a hodgepodge of different architects that came in, building number 5 to number 10, with number 10 being the most recent here in 2024, which we're really excited about, and Mr. Doak himself.
Awesome. So in a nutshell, Pinehurst Resort's been around for a really long time, but the last, decade plus, a lot of other stuff's been going on with the Cradle, then now going into Pinehurst number 10. So they are modernizing with the times, but it's kind of interesting to see the juxtaposition of the history. Then they kind of lost their way and now they're getting back to it a little bit, right? So kind of the order of operations here. We're going to quickly hit on some of those planning, some of those user submitted lettuce heads questions we have. We want to make sure we hit them all. If we miss something or you got to follow up, we don't dive too deep into this side because we want to get into the golf. We know that's why people are here. Just shoot us a DM. We'll be happy to give you any info that you might want or need. But good thing about Pinehurst, a pro, is it's actually one of the easier golf trips to pull off when you're talking about your elite golf destinations, when you're talking Pebble Beach and Bandon Dunes and Sand Valley and maybe even Stream Song to an extent. And I think it's because of their history, they have a lot of infrastructure available. They have a lot of lodging available. They have a lot of golf courses available. So just naturally, the tee sheet isn't filled jam packed a year plus in advance like a lot of these other destinations are. So that's definitely a pro. However, before we get into costs, let me throw out one caveat. Not to come off as pretentious, but we have done a lot of these very expensive golf excursion, golf trips, and that's just the name of the game for the elite side of golf, right? We get it. You might be a Myrtle Beach golfer for the three night trip for 36 a day, $600 with lodging included. That's great, but that ain't going to get your foot in the door at some of these top 10, 20 locations in the country. So Pinehurst is expensive, man. So why do you go in the winter? So pro tip number one, from the end of Thanksgiving through, or the week after Thanksgiving through the end of February, rates plummet. When we say plummet, it's literally like a third of the cost from the average price from the rest of the year. So full transparency, our package was $1,200. What did that get you? Got you 2 nights of lodging on the property, got you 3 rounds at 2, 4, and 10, 3 top 30 public golf courses in the country, with upgrade fees that we're going to get into, 2 and 10 included, and an afternoon at the Cradle, the short course, and breakfast both days, and dinner both nights, dinner without exceptions. We're talking you get an appetizer, an entree, and a dessert. So honestly, for $1,200, it's one of the best deals in golf. The con being, the reality is you are going in the off season. So there's more risk I'm not actually going to say there's more risk of weather, because if you live in the Southeast, there's risk of storms all the time, but you do have risk of frost. You have the risk of courses being soft, and you're playing in dormant conditions. So it's not going to be as aesthetically pleasing. Mr. Golfberg isn't here because, I'm not calling him out. I think he wanted me to tell the world. He's telling you, do not go to any Southeastern golf destination with yellow fairways, as he calls them. He hates to see it. He's a Midwesterner by heart, now a PNW convert. So us being down in the Southeast for a while, we're used to the dormant Bermuda season. And like, hey, look, I've gone twice in the winter. I've gone at the beginning of winter, at the end of winter. Now, I will say, if you're going to book this trip, I would recommend doing it at the beginning of winter. The courses play a little bit more pure to what you would expect. But dude, I mean, we're out there 65, 70 degrees. It's sunny. You're playing 3 amazing golf courses. It's tough to beat. Adam, comments, thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, you always roll the dice when you're playing in the winter. I mean, you could get rain, you could get frost, you could, like the week before we went, they got snow.
Which is
But
extremely rare, but it did happen.
What's interesting is Pinehurst at heart was known as a winter resort.
Mm-hmm.
It's essentially where folks from the Northeast, they would come down during the winter and spend, a few weeks at Pinehurst. And I guess that's what's crazy. I'm really surprised that the rates plummet as far as they do, considering you have all the northern golfers that literally just can't golf at all.
I know. I think and it's when we say plummet, let me just be specific here. So we went the last week of February. Just 1 week later, it literally is double the price for that same package. It's actually slightly over double the price. And if you go during the peak season, even 2 months after that, you're talking
It's basically
over
spring and
trip.
fall, right?
Yeah,
That's
it's
the peak seasons.
spring. Yeah, late spring, kind of late spring and fall are the peak, and then there's a little bit of a dip back down in the summer. But again, you're talking double to triple the price. So it's like, where do you put a premium on these things? And I will fall on my sword and say it is the best deal in golf for a mega elite golf destination to go during that period of time. But yeah, so some of the cons, like you said, it is dormant, so it's not going to be as aesthetically pleasing. If they do have a harsh
The
winter, you're going to run into some of that with some soft areas. Yeah.
the range might not be up and working. You may just be
Yeah.
blasting balls into a net.
They're going to be doing specialty projects. So like the main pro shop was shut down, and the main driving range was. But then again, it's a big operation, so you could drive 7 minutes to one of the other courses slightly off property, still owned by Pinehurst, and they had driving ranges, not in nets, if you had to do it before you warmed up. So, there's workarounds for it. So then it goes into like, hey, is it worth saving 1,200 to 2,400 bucks for some of those kind of inconveniences, if you will? Um, so yeah, so basically on the planning side, that's why we did it in the winter. We gave you the pro tips of why or when and why. But then, pick your poison. If you're flying in, probably not doing it that time of year. Go pick the peak season and go do it once. But if you are in the regional area and it's a drive for you, man, I'm almost thinking about booking that last week of November, first week of December for the rest of my life. Like that's how it's just such an easy trip to go pull off for 2 or 3 days. And for not being that cost prohibitive, it's not bad. So that to me rolls into the resort. The vibe of the resort is completely different than any place I've ever been. You've gone to these like traditional golf destinations where it's golf only, golf all the time. You've been to some of these ones that are more luxury, modernized type of manufactured ones. And this
Stream
is,
song.
yeah, this is completely different. This is literally a town, right? It's that just sits. You're just driving, and you just run into it. And you got little shops, you got little eateries, almost like the city square is almost where the golf course is. Um, and because of that, though, you got families out there. It's a great pro tip of pro tips. If you want to get an extra golf trip in, this is the easy one to bring a spouse, husband, wife, girlfriend. If they're not into golf, it's okay because spa situation's awesome. Enough shops for a couple days to keep them occupied. And we're going to get into, they have other resort amenities on the short course and putting course that it doesn't matter your skill level. Anyone can go have a drink and go have fun at.
I was actually going to list one of my cons being that there's families there.
It's anti
That's just,
kids.
yeah, that's just not something, when I go on my golf trips, I usually see, abandoned Sand Valley. It's just a bunch of dudes, man, just a bunch
Yeah.
of dudes out there wanting to play some golf.
You can have a bro trip to Pinehurst, but there's a class and an elegance to there that you're not going to see that as the only, but you see it though. I mean, you saw large groups of dudes out there for sure, but it's just a little bit more of a mixed bag, right?
Yeah. It did blow my mind driving up to Pinehurst. It just kind of comes out of nowhere. You just pull on this unsuspecting road and like there's no massive signage or anything. And next thing you know, you're on property and there's like this town and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just
It's
out of the
different.
ordinary.
It's
Yeah, it's
cute. It's
bizarre.
quaint. It is
Yeah.
nice though.
Very quaint. It's
Quaint's a great word for it. Classy and quaint. But like I'm jonesing, man. I'm like jonesing to I had something on the lip here. It's just his mustache hair. Don't worry about it. I'm not even going to edit that out.
yeah.
But we talked about the package that we had that included the breakfast, the dinner, what everything you got. Um, so I don't want to like rehash everything on food. I would just generally say it's all solid. It's got everything from grab and go to the steakhouse. All the pricing to me is extremely normal. They could charge a lot more than they do. I found that to all be very fair, above board, nice drink scene, some cool local drinks. All of them were pretty legit. The bartenders aren't jipping you. If you get a liquor drink, they're making it, legit and for real. And another pro tip, the deuce. one of the coolest places to go have a beer after a round or before a round in America. It overlooks the 18th green of Pinehurst number two. Grab a chair right there. Everyone's cheering, everyone's booing on approach shots while you're on the green. You're getting heckled, but just such a cool scene. If you're a golfer, like not only have you seen all the history right there, just awesome, man.
Yeah, we did that before playing number 2, and I just remember as we were walking to 18 when we were playing number 2, thinking about, "Oh, yeah, this is where I get to go
Yeah.
play in front of a couple hundred people, and they get to
Yeah,
see how terrible I am."
when you're giving shit to the guy ping ponging back and forth, and then all of a sudden you're out of position, it's not as fun. So yeah, but other resort offerings now, golf, baby. We're here for the golf. The lettuce heads want to hear about the golf. So the Thistle Dhu 18-hole putting course. So a lot of these massive putting courses are popping up. The Bandons have them, Cabot has them, StreamYard, that's what we're filming on. Stream Song has them. There's product placement to StreamYard. That's a good one. So what'd you think about the Thistle Dhu? 18 holes, wild, get in the queue, got the drinks going, the bets are flying.
I love these putting courses, and I think this one is kinda comparable to Bandon's.
Mm-hmm.
It's got some wild, just fall off the
Some
earth,
five,
like,
six,
balls.
five, six putt cities going out
Oh,
there.
yeah, yeah, some balls that just don't stop running. We had one that was, like, running down towards the cradle. But
Which
yeah,
is a good
it's
like 100 yards away, literally.
yeah. No, it's a ton of fun. You get to bring a drink out there. I am a sucker for the lighted putting courses. That's the only thing that was
Yeah.
missing, but other than
Yeah.
that, it's fun
Shout
time.
out Aaron Hills. I don't
Yep,
think Aaron Hills
absolutely.
has the best putting course, but it's lighted, so having a drink out
Yep.
there at 10, 11 o'clock, it's tough to beat. But yeah, I think that's part of the family thing out there. They shut down operations a little early, a little quieter in the evening. And let's move over to the Cradle. So this is our first getting into the golf. So we're about to go Cradle, Pinehurst number 10, Pinehurst number 4, Pinehurst number 2. So I'm going to kick it over to Adam first. Tell us a little bit about the Cradle, and then I think we're going to go back and forth on some of our pros and cons of all these.
Yeah, so the Cradle is their 9-hole short course, opened in 2017, designed by Gil Hance. The holes range from anywhere from, I think, like 56 yards to all the way up to like 130, or maybe just shy of 130. Um, and it's kind of interesting. The Cradle actually sits on some of the same land that Pinehurst number 1, the very first few holes back in like 1898, were built on. So I had to throw that in there just as the historian.
No, you got to.
Um, I gotta be honest, I gotta get something off my chest.
Okay.
The Cradle is a complete and utter embarrassment.
Okay. It's funny before you said that. It was perfectly fine. I was going to say, hey, let's tee up our pros before we get into any cons, but I guess that model's thrown out the window. So, tell why do you feel that way?
I mean, after seeing the preserve at Bandon, the sandbox at Sand Valley, even the wedge at Cabot Sisters Farms, like for a par 3 course, it's like this is like the lowest amount of effort I can imagine. The holes aren't very bold. It's not super interesting to me. And and you're hitting off mats, and it's not even like they're not even like good mats. It's like the mats you would buy at like Academy Sports for like $80. And you're Pinehurst.
Yeah.
I mean,
So,
it's like I'm probably being harsh,
no,
but
let me,
but
this is
these
the,
it's not even in the same galaxy as the Sandbox or Preserve. I guess that's my
yeah,
take.
no. So I mean, it's not a good podcast if it's just a fluff piece and you and I agree on everything. So let me give the counter argument to that and let's see if we can find some common ground. Um, I would agree out of all these modern short courses, it's the worst of them all. However, I'd caveat to say worst is all relative because I still had a ton of fun playing it. It's super easy to get around on. We looped it twice, no problem. So you pay for it once, and you kind of just have unlimited access unless it gets super busy out there.
I do like that.
It's great game for like we that day we played Pinehurst number 4, and we went over to the Cradle. Um, Bets are flowing, you're pressing the drinks. It's a good time. Now I will say it is a little bit of waste of land. Like they could make it so much better than it is. The mats thing, look, guys, get over it. I mean, my thing is, my issue is not that you're hitting off of a mat. My issue is that you're hitting off of a bad mat. If they're
Yeah,
going to
give
have
us a
permanent
good mat.
mats installed, like the wedge at Cabot Citrus Farms has a mat, but it's a pretty solid hit. It's a firm hitting surface, so you could actually do things with the wedge. I'm actually thinking I kind of hurt my right wrist a little bit hitting the cradles and mats because they're so soft and just disheveled.
Maybe that's what I'm upset about the most is the mats. Like
You
it's
can't
just
sauce the wedge.
the mats were like curling up at the edges. I mean, it was like
It was,
literally they were
but all that being said, I think the counter would be like, or you miss like it's still so to me it was still a lot of fun, and
for
I
sure.
think for $50 and going to loop it 2 or 3 times, it's well worth it. But I would encourage them, like, it's kind of unbecoming with your mat situation, like install real mats. And then second, um like maybe think of maximizing that property, because you could have made that 11 or 12 holes, and I think you could have made a couple more interesting holes for sure. And I think what had happened is, I think the Cradle was on the forefront of this movement. Now these short courses are getting like super popular, and they were like right at the early one when like the Preserve at Bandon was being open and things like that. Maybe it was after a couple years after that, but um I think in retrospect, if this was happening like now, it would be a much better product than it is. I guess
I
my thing is like, I can't sit here and go like, oh, it's like, it doesn't suck. It's just compared to what's out there, it's not the good version of it.
I mean, I haven't played some of the other courses. Obviously we played 2, 4, and 10, but I mean, I kind of feel like between 1, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, from what I hear is pretty good. But some of those other ones, like maybe we just bulldoze one of them and just create like a 6 short course. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. I think they have the land and the features out there to make a pretty good one. But yeah, maybe if you have to do that, and I think they, look, we're not diving into the other courses. They have renovated some of their. Is it number 3? I think it's only like 5,000 yards, and it's got some quirkiness to it, and it's so I don't know. There's some there, but we're talking about the Cradle. Hey, good logo. Let's be so
Hey, for
we
sure.
love the Cradle's logo.
Hey, I'm not saying like don't go play it. For sure, you have to play it. It's fun.
It's just
It's a lot of fun.
it's
It's
just
just
if you go play those other ones, you're gonna be like, oh, okay,
yeah.
now I get it. So, that was the Cradle. So let's fast forward. Let's cover the courses in the order we played them, right? So, any closing comments on Cradle? Are we good to move on?
I think we're good.
Slam the table. Okay, so we played 10, 4, and then 2. So I already teased Pinehurst number 10 as the number 1 new golf course in America. We're going to see if that designation is at all. Did they just ride the Pinehurst name, or was it legit? But Adam, tell us a little bit about Pinehurst number 10.
Yeah, so it's the newest addition to Pinehurst. Opened last year, designed by Tom Doak. Angela Moser, she was the lead associate. I want to give her a shout out.
Yeah,
So it's
some
like
cool videos out there of her like shaping and really. I mean, she did a lot out there. So I mean, it's definitely good
yeah,
to shout her out.
yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, in a lot of Doak's courses, it has his name, but there's some guys that are they're there and doing a lot of the
Doing most of
shaping.
it, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, so this is like the first new course at Pinehurst in like 30 years. So I mean, it's a big deal. Um, and I haven't played, obviously every course at Pinehurst, as I mentioned, but um, I can tell you that number 10 is way different than 2 and 4. It's expansive. It's bold. Just the terrain is just way different than what you're going to see on 2, 4 and those courses over there.
Yeah. So I'm gonna try to go back to this format. I'm gonna tell you some of my favorite things, and I think we're gonna have some overlap here. So tell me where you agree or disagree with, and then we'll get into some of the least favorite things. I know you're just chomping to get into least favorite on everything, but we'll be positive up front. So I had the same thing, wildly different than the other courses at Pinehurst. the features you'll see. Go check us out. We're on Instagram, YouTube. We're gonna have shorts detailing all this, reels detailing all this. Really, really cool, like aesthetically pleasing features. Also, something that isn't talked about a lot. It's got like complete and utter seclusion, if you will, because it's like 10 minutes off the property. It's called Sand Mines. It was this
Yeah.
old sand mine, right?
It's a good
Uh,
drive. I didn't realize it was gonna be that far. It's a good
yeah,
4 miles or so
yeah,
off
and
of the property.
yeah, and the cool part is though, nothing's going on. There's no like big construction projects. There's no roads. So when you get into the golf course, it is silent. And we played it on a day with only like a light breeze going on, and it was really cool. I mean, some parts it was almost eerie, but you hear nothing, and it's a big property, so you don't really see a lot of people either.
And that's completely different from like 2-4 and, the main
Yeah.
Pinehurst property where there's just a lot going on. You can see holes on other courses. You constantly are seeing people, but yeah, like you said, number 10 is just it's out
It
there.
it honestly has it doesn't look anything like Bandon Trails, but it was the closest feeling I've had to Bandon Trails being out on a golf course where it was just, like, quiet. It was just silent, and you didn't really see a lot of anybody else hole to hole just based on how it's routing and the elevation changes. So had that, and then I also had the par 3s were all world. This is kind of a dope special, but, I mean, again, some of the best set one of the best set of par 3s I feel like I've ever played. Um, and my last positive thought is I'm not gonna tease my or I'm gonna tease my rankings right now, but this course has me thinking we're, a couple weeks removed now. I'm thinking about specific shots on specific holes constantly. And to me, that is my marker of when, you let the dust settle and you get your recency bias out and you're really thinking of what's a great course. Those ones where you're like, oh man, I really want to hit that shot again. Or like, that was actually pretty sick the way they had that right there. I have a lot of that going on at Pinehurst number 10. So,
Yeah, same here. I have a much greater appreciation for it as we get further and further away. And yeah, it's a more like distinctive golf course than 2 and 4, where 2 and 4, the features are kind of just very subtle. And I almost wish that we played number 10 last. I think I would have had a greater appreciation for it. We played it first.
right.
And once we got through 2 and 4, I was like, man, wow, number 10 actually was a banger. But walking off initially off, 18 green on number 10, I was like, yeah, that wasn't my favorite dope course. But yeah, it was good.
But
But yeah,
that's
yeah.
me being a second timer, like, I was 4 holes in, and I was like, "Oh, man, this is way different than any of the other courses at Pinehurst." So that is an
Yeah.
interesting perspective.
Yeah. Uh what do you want? You want to get in some cons?
Yeah, I mean, so I well, yeah, this is informational so right now there is a $125 upcharge to play. So that was included in what we talked about, our $1,200 package. We included those upcharges in it. Um, I we can debate the merits of that in a second. My number one con from just a golf course perspective, it was just way too repetitive on the blind shots. I think like 10 of your tee shots are blind. And even some of them are just semi blind, but they're all just kind of these like slightly elevated green or fairways to where it just obscures your view. And don't get me wrong, I know that's like an architectural design element,
Yeah, that's
but
that's kind of the drawback of the
there was a
dramatic
lot of them.
roll the dramatic rolling land that you get out there with number 10. You're gonna get that. You're gonna get a lot of blindness.
Yeah, I was just thinking you didn't really get the flip side though ever where you got like the dramatic rolling downhill where you could just bomb a 400-yard drive every time that it mattered. It was
14
it
was
was straight up what 14.
the par 3, that's straight downhill. That's a
Yeah,
sick par 3.
of course, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. My point exactly. The 220-yard, 230-yard par 3, you get it straight down the hill. It's like, well, I want to hit a driver down that level of
yeah, yeah.
elevation.
It's a tough golf course.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's fairly wide open. You shouldn't lose too many golf balls, although I did wipe one on 8. Uh But yeah, it's not an easy walk either.
So yeah, my last two comments were basically that it's a tough walk and it might be too hard for most resort golfers. You're not, but hard's all relative because to your point, none of the courses at Pinehurst you're losing golf balls. It does like you have to go out of your way. If you're under a 15 handicap, you could probably go play for 3 days with a sleeve of golf balls and be a okay outside of scuff marks, right? Not losing them. But Pinehurst number 10 is hard. Like it's not impossible hard. It has different challenges than number two, but it is a difficult golf course for your normal resort player. Again, the trade-off is it's pretty open and you're not going to lose a golf ball, but you're going to be ping ponging. And it's a new golf course too, so it's firm. It was firm and fast for sure.
Oh yeah. Uh, one more. I'll add a pro slash con. So number 8 is
Fun.
yeah. Number 8's kind of the we'll call it the signature hole. It's just this wild, like blind tee shot. You got this massive mound right in front of you as you're teeing off, and you tee off into this fairway, and it's just, I mean, it's moving all over the place, and you've got this crazy green site that's kind of partially blocked on the left with this mound. It's just a crazy golf hole, and look, it's sick. But I guess my con would be that it almost felt a little disconnected with the rest of the course. It was so wild,
Yeah.
which I typically like, but it was almost too wild.
Which we said the course had bold features, but it wasn't like wild. It wasn't like Cabot Citrus, Carew, or Tobacco Road wild, but that one was. And I didn't know if we were going to go there because I don't want to. I could see Golfberg turning off the pod right now. Of like, I don't, guys, quit talking about golf course
We
architecture.
don't care.
What'd you shoot?
Yeah.
But the which we did played pretty good. But I think like the front nine in general, like 8 is the number one example of like crazy different from the other holes. But the front nine had a bunch of stylistic changes to me, which, oh, by the way, I love the front nine. I think I was in the minority that I like the front nine even better than the back. But I could see a criticism being like it kind of felt like 3 different golf courses in one on the front nine, whereas the back nine pretty much outside of maybe one hole had a stylistic vision that made, I don't want to say made sense, but it was consistent.
I will say on the back nine, I got some big time Pete Dye vibes on. I think it was 15, the drive over the kind of the risk reward drive over the water, where the farther
Yeah.
right you go, the better, closer you
Yeah.
get and whatnot.
Mhm.
Not super in love with that hole. I
Yeah,
also don't get the green side on that hole either. There was like,
that was the one I was referencing on the back nine as like one that felt disconnected to me from the
yeah.
rest of the back nine. But no, but I'll just close it out with this. I think the 125 upcharge is well worth it now. But after this thing's been open for a full season or two, it's kind of tacky, and they should drop it. It's like make up your dollars another way as opposed to putting a faux surcharge. Because I'll say this, I love Pinehurst number 10. I think best new golf course 24. Is it or isn't it? That's highly subjective, but it's certainly worthy of that. I loved it. It's flirting with my top 10 of all time. It's probably might just be just on the outskirts, but it's right around that 10 range. So it's a legit golf experience. And if you're going to Pinehurst, it needs to be at the top of your list. Like it's a must play, especially if you're a first timer. Any closing thoughts, Adam?
No, I totally agree. Yeah, I mean, the 125 just seems a little silly. I don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, because I feel like number 4 and 10 are for me very, very close golf courses. I mean, they're stylistically different,
Yeah.
but I mean, I'm maybe splitting like 50-50 like between them if I had like 10 rounds to do. I mean, it's that close.
Well, what? No better segue to get into Pinehurst number 4 than the split of the round. So before we do, I do. We preach transparency, and we've dealt with more bullshit on golf trips, especially from these high dollar places, than anybody else. And we've been critical, right? Like we called out Aaron Hills on like, hey, like, look, if you're charging this kind of money and the greens are in that condition, like that's unacceptable during peak season. Like it is unacceptable. Um, Pinehurst number 4, when we got there, we were notified that they did have some what they referred to as frost damage on the greens. And we said, okay, how bad is it? They're like, it's not that bad, but they're having to play them a little slower than they normally would, and they're not. I think the quote they use, they're not at the condition at what the expectation of the resort is. So what they offered was you could either change your round, but you're there on the property, so it's kind of late to need at that point, or you could play it, and they gave you $100 voucher. Basically, you could apply it to your anything on the resort or even to your booking. So, I mean, granted, how the math works out, that round's probably $150 round. So you're basically talking about getting 2/3 off your round. So we got on play, and let me say, good on them for doing that. But it was a little sketchy on how that came about. Like all four of us checked in individually, and I happened to be the only one where the check-in agent mentioned it. And they had like these cards waiting at you at your hotel in which were not going to be issued unless you brought up the issue with Pinehurst number 4. So I thought that was a little like unnecessarily veiled, that it wasn't just like right when you got there, oh, you're a Pinehurst number 4 guest. Here's your $100, or let's have a conversation about it. But I'll say this, like the
Or
course,
just send you an email before we even get there.
that's in their fears people are going to cancel or all that. So that's where my bullshit comes in. They handled it all great on the property, but that is the bullshit. Is you should have been contacting people well beforehand to say, hey, we got an issue going on, because you don't get to have a top 30 course in the country and have bullshit. You know, Bandon went through this last year with their greens, and they were begging influencers to stop shitting on their greens. And it's like, well, dude, I get it. Weather happens. It was a lot of rain. We had a drought. It was a tough winter. Well, guess what? I play at a daily fee public access course in my hometown here, which can maintain an immaculate green surface with a book tee sheet 365 days a year, no matter if we get a freeze, whether we're in a drought, whether it's raining. To me, it's effort, and they want to lie because they probably don't have the game plan in place. When everything's going good, it's going good. So I don't want to go on a complete rant on that, because they did handle it well at the resort. Also, the greens really weren't that bad. They weren't in rough shape. They just had to, they actually weren't bad at all. They just had to keep them so slow. So let me caveat that before we get into Pinehurst number 4. Probably rolling at like a 7, to be honest with you. It was a buzzkill, but they weren't bumpy. You know, there was a couple patches where you could see some damage, but they kept pins away. The greens were large enough to where it wasn't an issue. So to the eye, not a big deal, but putting, it was pretty rough.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I agree completely with everything you said, but you know, they, like you said, they still rolled fairly smooth. And I know there's another guy we were playing with that was losing his mind and, you know, ready to burn Pinehurst to the ground and dig up Donald Ross's body. But
So
yeah,
before we do that, do you want to tell us a little bit about Pinehurst number 4?
yeah, why
Okay.
not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah,
that we've teed it up negatively, but tell us a little bit about it. Why is it so
yeah, so,
important? Why is the
well,
greens being a issue such a big issue?
well, you know, Mr. Donald Ross in 1919 designed number 4, and no other course at Pinehurst has been transformed more often than number 4. I mean, it's number 4. It's kind of like the bastard child of Pinehurst. I mean, it's since Donald Ross, like we've had RTJ come in, do a redesign. We've had Reese Jones do a redesign. Tom Fazio came in and absolutely just, I
Destroyed
mean,
it.
it was like pot bunkers everywhere. I mean, it was wild. I mean, I couldn't believe some of the pictures that I saw just after playing number 4. That's what it looked like. But yeah, so Gil Hanse has done the most recent redesign, and you know, I was
Well,
thinking
that was
about
like
it.
just for context, what was that, like 2019 or something? I
I think
think
it was
that's what.
18. I think it was
Okay, okay.
2018. Um, but yeah, he came in and did the redesign, and I like thinking about number 4. I want to say it's almost like if number 10 and number 2 had a baby. It's like it's more like bold and distinct than number 2, but way more subtle than like number 10. And I think it just kind of strikes that perfect balance of just like all around great engaging golf. I really enjoyed it. I love number 4.
Yeah. So my summary phrase of number 4, it's probably like if I could choose a daily play course, it might be my number one daily play course I've ever played. I think it's friendly enough to where you're not going to get completely ejected. It's challenging enough to make you feel like you're playing legit big boy championship golf. And there's not really anything like wacky or it's just right in front of you and you just have to hit golf shots. And I think there's enough like architectural integrity to where it's a really fun golf round of golf the whole time you're playing. Um, some other things I would hit on is like it has really good par fours. Like the par threes are pretty good. The par fives, I kind of am like don't think are that good.
Wow.
But
I love
do
number
what
9.
you love number nine.
I do.
I feel like the
It's one
green.
of my favorite holes.
So that was gonna. Well, I'll save that for my con. Is that I thought the green on number nine is one of my least favorite on property, but we'll get to that that in a second.
Fair.
Um, uh, but yeah, it has definitely a unique vibe. And I do love it gives you that closing stretch of like 15, 16, 17 with two short par fours and a par five to like, you can really make a run at that back nine. It's like, it's very gettable. It's not easy, but you can go on a birdie run and actually post a score.
It's a very fun closing stretch. One of the best like closing stretches of golf that I've ever played.
Oh, and
I
there's
will,
no upcharge.
yeah,
There's no
no
upcharge to play.
upcharge. I will say, as great as the closing stretch is, there is kind of like there's some weak holes there in the middle. 12, 13, 14 don't sing to me. I'm not super in love with those holes.
Yeah,
Um,
I had that as I had 9 to 14, not that they're not all created equal, but I had 9 to 14 to be it's just a weak stretch of golf for me. It's kind of disjointed in a couple holes that just don't sit right with me.
hmm. I like 10. 11 I think's a pretty good part. 11 I believe is a brand new hole that Gill
Mhm.
introduced. I think that's a fine par 3. But yeah, 12, 13, 14 not my thing. But otherwise the front 9 is fantastic by the way. I love the front 9.
Yeah,
Um,
it goes those part the because it does the par four thing where it's like I was kind of categorizing it, looking at a cheat sheet note here real quick. Normally, I just ad lib all this stuff. This is a lot of information. I had a cheat sheet I pulled up, so just the Wizard of Oz, see what's going on back here. Um, I had them as like beast, positional, and risk reward as their par fours. Like they have a couple mammoth like number five is one of the meatiest par fours I've ever played, dude. Like you had the lumber to a very difficult undulated green going in.
I
But
love
then for every one of those, they have really good positional par fours where if you're on the proper side, you got absolute green light central into the greens. And then you have the risk reward, those shorties where it's like you can bomb it. Some of them you can drive. You hit one to 5 feet on a drivable par four, and I hit one to 3 feet, and that's so like it feels great. But then the guys that missed, it's like an extremely difficult up and down situation, and you could bring a double into play. So, yeah, I think that definitely. I think the par fours in general are probably just the strength of the golf course.
Yeah. I circled 4, 5, and 6 is a great stretch. I think 6 is one of the best par 3s on the entire Pinehurst property.
It's a super cool view. That's one where a view matters to me because you're at like the most elevated part of the property and you see the water down there for the back nine. It's a cool green site.
18, I think, is a great 18 finishing hole.
Yep.
Usually, I mean, for whatever reason, these great courses that you just can't get a good finishing hole. I think 18 at number 4 is a great finishing hole.
And the reason why it's really good is because it I mean, it's all relative to tees, but the tees most people are going to be playing that is going to be your 65 to 6,800 yard range. Um, it makes the driver a difficult play. Like, because if you're going to hit driver and you don't neck it up the left, you are going to run out of real estate into the native area. So, but then you can play to this big fat But then you got a pretty lane. I mean, you got a probably like a 6 iron, 5 iron into the green. And while the green is relatively large, it's the last hole. You're trying to be aggressive. So there's some good strategy in there. And it's definitely a cool visual.
Yeah, the last thing I want to say on number 4 is pro tip. I would say play number 4 before playing number 2. You're going to get some of that same, wiregrass native sand area that you'll get on number 2. Number 4, as we said, a little bit more wide open. I mean, number 2 isn't like claustrophobic, but it's just not as wide open, forgiving as number 4. So I think it's a good warm up to number 2.
No, for sure. I would agree with that 100%. So, all right, I'm good with number 4 unless you got any closing thoughts. I would say my comparison, I was 4 and 10. They're really close. They're probably next to each other on my list, but I do think for me 10 nudges number 4, and it's mainly because of that last part I made of I'm just thinking about a lot of the shots at number 10, whereas number 4, I'm not really thinking about any of the shots. And that to me is my dividing line.
Fair.
All right. So let's roll on to what everybody wants to talk about, the championship course, Pinehurst number 2. We got Donald Ross's house out at the course, but to tee us up, what do we need to know about Pinehurst number 2 before we discuss it?
Oh man, I
Outside of
don't
the
know. I
fact that
mean,
there is a $250 upcharge to play Pinehurst
that's
number 2.
yeah,
But let's
that's
get in.
yeah, that's all you need to know. I don't know. It's overrated. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I mean, what else can you say? It's one of the most iconic golf courses in the world. It's the crown jewel of Pinehurst Resort, designed by Donald Ross, 1907. It was kind of tweaked and messed around, tinkered with from Ross until like 1935, and from 1935 is the current routing that we have right now. And yeah, I mean, it's one of the greatest tests in championship golf. It's got the famous turtleback greens, um, strategic layout, the natural sandy areas that Bill Core and Ben Crenshaw brought back in 2010. Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know what else to say about it.
Before we
It
get
is what
into
it
it, let
is.
me just do a pot shot. There's a contingency of golfer out there that truly believes Pinehurst number 2 was a better golf course before they went back to their roots of the native areas and getting rid of the the rough lined fairways. I have no idea how you could go play that golf course and think like that. It's one of you should be institutionalized if you have that opinion. If you have any issue with it, you're a psychopath to the max order. So I just want to throw that
Uh,
out. So
Maybe Aaron would have that opinion.
I
I
did
don't know.
maybe I don't know. I and so we'll get into how it plays and the
He
sandy
loves
area.
the green stuff. I think he
Yeah,
just that.
love it. But so let me. I have two things to say about this. I don't want to be over the top, but I have two declarations. First, Pinehurst number 2 is the hardest course on planet Earth in which you will never take a penalty stroke or lose a ball. You have to do something like not even like 100 out of 100 egregious for either of those things to happen. Uh, However, it's as hard as it gets everywhere else. So the way I look at it is I think you could take a 14, 15 handicapper and they shoot their handicap there. They're not going to feel like they did, but they literally aren't going to have this 5 or 6 penalty strokes they normally did it. They're just going to ping pong on the greens a few times and it's going to, shake itself out that way. Um,
I'm glad you mentioned that because just the courses that we play in general between 4, 10, and 2,
there's
yeah, you're not gonna lose a golf ball, and yeah,
no water.
you're yeah, for the most part. Well, on number 2, there's no water,
Yeah, there's
right?
number 2,
Yeah,
there's no water. There's a
um,
that little pond on 16, but it's not in play.
right,
It's like a
right,
little reservoir, 100 yards, and it's a par 5.
yeah. So I mean, I think the best golf is when you know like at Pinehurst, if you wipe one off the planet, you're gonna be in the pines, but you're gonna have an opportunity to get back and play and hit a heroic shot. You're gonna have an opportunity to make a great golf shot, or maybe you don't, but at least you're not sending a ball OB and, you're like, oh, I'm out of this hole. Like it gives you that opportunity. And that's something that I really appreciate across all the courses that we played.
Yeah. So let me follow up with this second statement of recency bias is a real thing, but going into this trip, Pinehurst number 2 is my second favorite course of all time. I'm pretty confident after doing a second loop and the way I feel about it that it is my favorite golf course I've ever played. Um, and I don't mean that just I'm not lost in the sauce. Trust me, I shit on name brand golf courses all the time. Plenty of them we've played are nowhere. They're not even in like our top 20s and 30s now at this point. Um, but to me, I, I can objectively say I could see where this course really is for low single digit handicappers, scratch plus handicappers. Because if you can't control your golf ball, especially off the tee directionally, um, and when I say directionally, I mean like picking a side of the fairway, it can be a pretty long day. I recognize that, but for me, I love it. The front 9 is unbelievable. It's probably the best 9 holes of golf I've ever played. And really the whole golf course, there's only one golf hole that I would even consider a connector hole. Usually every golf course, there's like even the good ones have 4 or 5 holes just to get you somewhere. I think 15 is the only one I would say is just kind of like, it's a par 3 and it's not a ton going on. It just kind of gets you to the closing stretch. Outside of that, it's 17 A minus to A plus golf holes. There's not a signature hole, I would say. Probably a signature stretch of like 3 to 6, but really that whole front 9 is signature. Um, I was just ecstatic, smiling cheek to cheek. Every golf shot has consequence. Not one gimmick. I'm not flying something over a tree. I'm not like flirting with the OB stake here. It's not even risk reward. It's just like, you have the notes to the test in front of you. It says on number 8, be down the right side. We know the fairway slopes 60 degrees right to left, and there's a ton of space left. You go down the right side. If you're in the native area right, it is way better than being down in the fairway or the first cut or
Yeah.
whatever on the left.
I can tell you
And
don't go left.
yeah, so it's just that way almost on every single golf hole or golf shot. And then the anxiety you have on the approach shots, I, I love. Don't get me wrong, I got ejected a few times. I will say, humble brag, I feel like my iron play on that golf course was some of the best iron play I've had of the last 5 years. But when that ball's in the air and you know the margin of error is this, your heart, you are staring at that golf ball. You're looking at the trajectory. Is it got that fade to cut, that fade to draw? Did you really hit it how you meant to hit it? And it's just to me the most exhilarating style of golf that I've played.
I think you stole my notes. You just reeled off a bunch of bullet points that I
Well,
had.
that's well good. We
Yeah.
haven't talked about it prior to, so I needed to get that off my chest though.
No, I mean, one of the big things that I was going to say is I don't think you can truly understand the brilliance of Pinehurst if you're not somewhere around a scratch golfer. I mean, you can understand it, but as far as like
Experience it.
experiencing it, there you go. I think you got to be a really, really good player to fully experience the brilliance of Pinehurst. And yeah, I think what I just take away from those greens are like just the most challenging, crazy, like awesome greens I've ever played.
Yeah.
And boy, I mean, what's funny is they're not even really like Donald Ross greens. It's just, the top dressing that I guess has been built up over time. Just Mother Nature has, really pushed them up. But I think that 3, 4, 5 stretch, and I know I want to say that maybe you mentioned it, but yeah, that's the stretch for me. Especially, I think 3 is my favorite hole. Just that short par 4. You get that wedge in your hand, and that green is just like where do you hit it?
Oh, yeah.
I know we got a good reel where I was not joking. I was scared hitting that shot. I was like, I'm about to get absolutely ejected.
Cause yeah, like it's every shot you hit. You're like, I know the assignment. I got the notes. I got the cheats, I got the Game Shark and the cheat code is in, but but the outcome, the consequence. And it's such an interesting consequence because it's not a hazard. But it is ejection city. So yeah, number three is the home hole of Donald Ross. So there's a whole story behind how he shaped that and what he did, stalking that green from his, his back porch to make it perfect. And that whole stretch right there, it's to me the most special little corner that I mean, of course, obviously, if you go play Augusta and some of these others, there's comps or things that might surpass it. But from publicly accessible golf, it's as special as it gets. And I don't think you have to be like we went with one of the guys with us, let us head in front of the program. He's not a golf sicko, he's a golf nut, but he's not like into the history and architecture. But you could even tell, like in that stretch, he's like, this is this is amazing. Like, even if you're like, this is sick, like you still get it on some level. Um, but yeah, man, it's to me the challenge, while I still find it to be fair, I don't find it to be gimmicky at all. It's just hard. I mean, you're gonna get ejected, but it's not random. It's just you gotta execute.
Yeah, I'm so excited to get back and play it again. I don't think I fully got to experience it, especially on the back nine. Had a bad case of the
Yeah.
Waffle House smothered and covered.
Yeah,
And
yeah, the pull hookers and
that's
the eye gate. That's
yeah,
a tough back to
that's
back.
usually not my game. The whole pull hooks. I'm more of a slice right off the planet. Um, but yeah, I got my feelings a little bit on the back nine. I really want to go back and have a little bit of my game on that front nine, back nine, and
So I do
uh,
want to talk about the closing stretch, but let's at least be fair. Nothing's perfect, right? So there are some cons. Like, it is cost prohibitive if you want to add Pinehurst number two to your trip. It's at a minimum $250 upcharge, and it's an expensive greens fee, right? You do have to stay on property to play it. The other courses you can just book, but number 10, you have to stay on property as well now. But so it's expensive. Another tacky thing for me: no pin sheets available. Only it seemed it was caddy scam adjacent that the
that's
caddies would have that info. Um, and even though they say, "Oh, just aim for the middle of the greens," those greens are by design extremely deceptive, where you think something's fallen off of a cliff, but you really have 15 yards behind it. So I thought the no pin sheet availability for that course was tacky.
yeah. I've
Um,
especially I just want to say number one, I had that experience where I thought my ball like went off the planet on the
yep.
back, but there's actually more room back there than you can
Yeah,
see.
and there you don't wanna be long, but there was 4 or 5 holes where you're like, "Oh, I really wish I knew I had 15 yards to play with deep, and I wouldn't have even messed with this short left or short right."
And while we're talking about it, one pro tip I do want to say, just get the yardage books. In the
Yeah,
pro shop, they're like $10 for each course, and that's what we did. We just bought a yardage book
yeah, I
and
wish I would've that's good. I wish I would've teed that up. We didn't use caddies for any of this, and honestly, number 2 on the greens, probably a really, 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 really good caddy could help you for a couple strokes, but for the most part, none of these courses need a caddy. They're not blind enough or wild enough. They're open enough. And the yardage books are solid. They tell you, like, number 2, get that for $10 and just, if it says right, just all you have to look right, left on for the like right or left, and that's your target line for the hole, and you can go play that golf hole. Another thing, if I'm being critical, if I'm being introspective, I could say that you could argue that the native areas aren't enough of a penalty. Um, if the course conditions are not super firm. So I'm not the longest hitter in the world. I'm probably longer than 99% of people that play Pinehurst. We're not playing it from 7,500 yards. I understood the assignment. I hit my driver as hard as I could down the side that my book told me. And I was in the native area more often than not, just because I'm aiming for it almost. But honestly, unless you catch wiregrass, which for the US Open they remove 70% of it, it was really easy to hit off of. You can ground your club in it. You could spin it. I probably hit 3 of my 5 best approach shots out of it. It was easier to hit than 90% of fairways you're going to play at most courses. So, I mean, if I had to be critical, like Bryson kind of proved it, it's almost like that course, maybe another way of putting it is the greens are so difficult. You want to just be as close to the green as possible. Maybe there's one or two exceptions if it's 50 yards, but I'm talking like uh, you don't want to lay back to 170 if you can be in the native grass from 100. Like it just there's no planet where it's even close enough to a penalty to not want to do it.
Well, I mean, it's no coincidence that during this last U.S. Open, Bryson and Rory were battling at the top, the two longest drivers of the golf ball.
Yeah. No, it's yeah, they literally you need to be as close to those greens as possible. And that's kind of a prerequisite I get of the modern game, but I would say it's exacerbated there because you can control your golf ball out of that stuff. So yeah, I guess if I'm being critical, that would be my only thing I would say. And any cons for you other than it being hard?
I feel like I can't give a full critique yet. I need to see it again. It's kind of like it's like an incomplete grade for me.
Sounds like that first week
Um,
of December, we need to set up that couples trip.
yeah, I do need to see it that first week of December. I think the one thing I did mention when we were out there is it's kind of weird. I do wish the greens on number 2 were a little bit quicker.
it's I it's funny. Like they weren't slow by any means. They were probably they said 11 when we teed off, but I would say they were probably a 10. I think it wasn't the speed of the greens. I hate to be like trying to golf talk down to people or that comment. I don't think it was the speed of the greens. I think they had them for whatever reason. They were so sticky. I think it was the softness of the green. They were so sticky that it made some shots you would want to play not possible. And then it really probably didn't give you some of the bowl effect you could have on the greens, right? Like balls were stopping pretty fast. But I will tell you, be careful what you wish for because any we played them slightly faster, slightly firmer in that December round a couple years ago. And to me, they were perfect. Like it was, you could still control the ball, but if you had slight mishits, it was ejection like left and right. A lot more ping ponging doing that.
That's what I want, baby.
Yeah.
Send it to me.
So Adam, anytime you can get an extra golf trip in, it's always a win. But specific to Pinehurst, I think throughout this you kind of get the vibe. I love Pinehurst. I think it's some of the most fun golf you're going to play. Yeah, it doesn't have the ocean views, but man, it's as good as it gets for me. But where did that net out for you? First timer.
Yeah, I really liked it. I want to go back. Uh, it's a fairly easy drive for us down here in the South. It's kind of a crime that I'm just now getting around to playing Pinehurst, but there's 10 courses. Played 3 of them, so I want to get around and play the rest of them at some point. Also, obviously, want to play number 2 a few more times, and kind of see where that one nets out specifically for me. But overall, it was a great experience. The property's super cool. The town is awesome. I know we didn't talk about like where we stayed. We stayed at the Holiday Inn, and just a very quaint. I know we mentioned
Yeah.
that word.
It's like these
I think
historic
that
hotels, these historic buildings, they're cool.
like
Cool
it's. I mean,
vibe.
no, I mean it. Nothing grand. It's everything you need, nothing you don't, kind of thing. But yeah, I'm looking forward to going back, man. Sign me up for a December Pinehurst trip.
Okay. Stamp we will get it done. So yeah, I don't have anything else to add besides on to the next one. So we got some fun stuff lined up this year. I think we're gonna maybe be heading down to a local club. We won't spoil it, but a local Georgia course to do a little profiling on here in about a month or so. Me and Mr. Golfberg, we're gonna have a Vegas rendezvous later in the spring. I got some summer secret plans, some big name hitters. So, and then one blowout we're trying to pull off in the August or September timeframe. So enough teasing in there. But yeah, like while we're doing the day-to-day golf, while we're doing the weekly pod, we do have some serious hitters coming on the golf course front to hopefully give you this type of information. So I hope you like it. And as always, if you have anything, let us know, shoot us the DM, and most importantly, stay plugged. Peace.
And remember the Kobe paradox.